For those of you that have never read this book, you should. If you are interested in strategy, this is a great one. It was written in 2010, I think around that time, by an American thinker in strategy and organizational theory and a bunch of other things, Walter Kiekel. And he really looked at that and investigated the history of strategy. And one of his biggest and for many surprising claims was that since 1995, he said, so this was written in 2010, since 1995, no big new ideas have been introduced in the field of strategy. And if you actually look and you're critical, he had a point. Very little was introduced. So this is his thesis. So what do we do? Do we give up on this? And what's going on? Now, so we are good consultants. And we started with fact collection. That's what we did. We started about 2-3 years ago. We interviewed 2,000 executives around the world of all different levels and of all different industries across the board. And we talked to them about strategy. We said, what do you think about that? And these were some of the findings that we had. Most companies, the majority, 62%, said that yes, strategy development has become more difficult, exactly for the reasons that we just mentioned, because the world is changing faster. It's harder to do. 74% even say they're spending more time. It's harder to do. You have to spend more time to get to a decent answer. The world has become less predictable. It's harder to do. Most of them, 63%, said actually that the cycle, your time horizon, is getting shorter and shorter. On average, it was less than 2 years. Strategy development, less than 2 years. So every 2 years, again and again and again. See what's going on? Even more so, long-term planning efforts, the success rate was actually becoming increasingly questionable as well. And if you then ask the question, and this was a killer, I think. You ask about the success rate. On average, it was 50%. So 50% of strategies that are becoming harder to do, shorter in time, only 50% are the companies themselves think they are successful. And if you then dig a little bit deeper, if you ask the CEO, was that strategy successful? Around 80% thought it was successful. But if you asked mid-level management or lower, it was much lower. It was closer to the 50%. No surprise, I think, because it's largely mid-level management that needs to execute on what was ever discussed in the boardroom. It's a typical phenomenon, by the way, that you see that distance between them.